Catch up on that.
Call meeting to order and go ahead and do introductions.
Before then, let's make sure we connect.
Neil Gibson, City Attorney's Office.
Dan Schmidt in Rico County.
Odie Donald, City of Richmond.
Dave Anderson, Chesterfield.
Barb Smith, Chesterfield.
Nicole Jones, City of Richmond.
Ellen Robertson, City of Richmond.
Terrell Hughes in Rico County.
GRTC Cheryl Adams.
Jim Engel, Chesterfield County.
You wanna? I'll go next. You, yep. You.
Carrie and Andy.
There you go.
Richard Dickerson, Marketing Communications. Jim Robinson, Central. Michael
Wright, Technology Supervisor.
Dave Sink, Family Board.
While IT, GRTC.
Yes, sir. GRTC.
Sherry Kowalski, RideFinders.
Tom Richardson, GRTC.
GRTC.
Monica Carter, GRTC.
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 That would be the last.
Yes, in front of GRTC.
Jan Swift, GRTC.
Daniel Landry, City of Richmond.
Sarah Schauber, we got to.
All right. I know we have at least one public. You get any public comments?
Yeah, just gave it to me Sunday.
So, good morning to the board. Yes, we did receive one public comment from Leah Wilson. She says, "Dear GRTC board, I'm writing to express my strong concern about the service cuts proposed to go into effect on February 22nd. As a daily GRTC rider without a car, I rely on GRTC to get me around the city, and service cuts could add significant delays, frustration, and inconveniences to my life. Particularly concerned about the night and weekend service cuts to the 5 and 14, both of which I ride on nights and weekends. These service cuts will make me use GRTC less, and when I do use it, it will be significantly more time consuming. I would like to keep being able to rely on GRTC's great service, no matter the day of the week or time of night. Please do whatever is in your power to maintain off-peak frequencies, especially on weekends and especially on high ridership routes, such as the 5. Sincerely, Leah Wilson."
Is there anybody else here to make a public comment? Okay. Sure.
Okay, good morning, everyone. First up, I want to acknowledge our employees of the month. We now have 2 months as we did not have a January meeting, so I will start with our January employee of the month. First up is our bus operator, Chris Blow. It says the person that nominated Chris said he consistently goes above and beyond for our riders. He's reliable, provides excellent customer service, and regularly steps in to cover open shifts so service continues. Let's give a hand to Chris Blow. Next up, we have Technology Supervisor Michael Bryce. Michael is a key member of our technology team that keeps all of our destination signs and all the technology on the bus operating in top shape. He supports both projects and people, helping to make sure work is completed on time and done well. Let's congratulate Michael Bryce. And the last one for January is not here, but it's a mechanic, William Lobo. It says, William approaches every task with pride and professionalism. He's always willing to help his colleagues and take great care in his work. So we'll give him a round in his absence. For February, we have 3 more employees nominated by their peers. First up is our link operator, Miss Sue Hickman. It says Sue brings a strong work ethic and positive attitude to every shift. She's always punctual, adapts easily to service changes, and approaches challenges with strong problem-solving skills. So we want to congratulate Sue. Next up is Miss Terry Lynn Anderson. Terry Lynn is our customer service representative. And it says Terry Lynn has shown exceptional initiative and professionalism. She embraces cross-training, strengthening her skills, and she stepped up to train new hires in the absence of the supervisors. So we want to congratulate Terry Lynn. And the last one for the month of February is someone from our facilities team who helps to keep this building in shape, and that's Kay Washington. It says Kay consistently goes above and beyond to support the organization. He is dependable, helpful, and known for thinking outside the box to find solutions. So we want to thank Kay for everything he does for us in this building. So thank each of you for everything that you do here at GRTC, and you are welcome to leave or you're welcome to stay. It's totally up to you. I know you want to leave. You want to start with us.
Hi, family. Good to meet everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you. See you later.
I'm going to go a little out of order based on how it's listed here, but the next thing I want to talk about is our recent snowstorm and how we reacted to that. So on that Sunday, we tried, both Sunday and Monday, we tried to put service out, but we had supervisors go out at 3:00 in the morning to assess the roads and see if it was doable. And we made the determination that because of safety, it was not doable to operate Sunday nor Monday. But that Tuesday, we started putting service out. We started gradually by waiting until the sun was up so that the operators could see the roads. And we put it out on limited basis, and we only operated on snow routes. So we did that for several days, and then we were finally able to put service back fully in place by the end of the week. And I just wanted to say that we don't take removing service lightly, but we had to take safety as our top priority. So that's why the tough decision was made to not operate on that Sunday or Monday. But I feel like our staff, our employees, everyone did an excellent job of remaining safe. We had great attendance. I feel like the attendance during a snowstorm might have been better than it does on a sunny day. So everybody showed up and was willing to do whatever was needed to make sure we could pick up our passengers. And we worked very closely with the city and the EOC, the command center, to make sure that the streets were cleaned and the stations at the BRT stations were clean. So all in all, it for the conditions, it worked well. So
Sure, really dumb question. Is most of our fleet rear wheel drive, all wheel drive? It's a question a lot of us have been asking about our own vehicles the last few weeks. I just don't know what the fleet is, because that makes a huge difference in bad weather. I just don't know the technology.
No wheel drive.
This one was a different type of storm also. I mean, this one was the ice, and so it's much more difficult to, to the chagrin of many of our residents and folks, in residential areas, was just a huge challenge because of the ice more so than the snow. We were actually hoping for snow. And when we got ice, folks knew we were in for a doozy. So not sure if all four-wheel drive, not on this one. I mean, I think I saw trucks in some of our surrounding counties, a couple of them turned over. And then for us, we didn't, with us not attempting on some of them because of that, we caught a little flag also. But the safest thing is just not.
100%.
Yeah.
So next up is a community foundation grant that we received. We were awarded a $25,000 grant from the community foundation to support a dedicated person for our TAP or Transit Access Partnership. So the purpose of this role is to focus on fundraising, partnerships, and outreach to help sustain and grow our zero fare program. This grant makes GRTC the first organization to receive this funding, so we are really excited about that. And it underscores the community foundation's confidence in our work and the importance of keeping fare-free transit accessible in the region. And I also wanted to let you know that we're already planning for this summer's Tap into Transit Day. It's going to be on July 14th, and that's going to showcase our regional partnerships and engage the community in zero fares. So we are looking forward to that day on. But in the meantime, the grant for the coordinator, we are moving that forward and having that person do a lot of fundraising and reaching out to different organizations for partnership. And finally, my last update is on our simulator. It is finally in, it's finally up and running. Our trainers have been trained on it. So it's going to allow the operators to practice safety, decision making, and de-escalation in a controlled environment. And while we realize that nothing replaces real time on the road, this is a major step forward to training quality and safety. So we were going to invite you all over after the meeting, but now we have finance committee after the meeting. So anybody that wants to go over today or anytime, please let us know, and we'll be happy to take you over and have you try it out. So
Does it simulate ice?
that's a good question. We'll have to look and see. But the exciting thing about this one is it actually displays our streets. They actually came in and took videos of our streets. So we're excited about that. The previous one did not do that. So this is really new technology that's really, really good. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Any questions for sure? All right, seeing here none. Approval of the December 16th, 2025 board meeting minutes. Anyone have any questions? If not, can we get a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All right, moving in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda. There's a lot of stuff on this, consent agenda. Any questions about any of it? How do I go back to the beginning? Hold on. Okay, it's moving quickly. Maintenance and transportation operations, technical study, expansion micro transit vehicles, driver barriers, thank you. Retrofit project, via change order, micro transit, paratransit, grant applications, medical health insurance renewal, focal point advertising contract, financial auditing services. And I would assume this is 2 months worth of consent agenda stuff.
So what's on the consent agenda, we
Mhm.
actually went over during the committee meetings in
Okay.
January. Anything that's new will be an action item.
All right, perfect. All right, so these are already things that we kind of talked about. Anybody have any questions? If not, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just one, we had one comment on F, I guess, from committee. I guess we support approval, but just with the caveat that we would like the fiscal policy in place prior to acceptance of the grants. So that was the one comment we made to the committee.
And so, do you want to talk about that? You want to say something else about that? I think that's something that we probably dig into deeper in the finance today as well. So, all right. So we'll dig into that more in finance. But anybody else have any other questions, comments? All right. So we need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Moving second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Development updates, both of them coming from Ms. Torres, downtown transfer station, RFQ, and quarterly ridership report.
Morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So we went over, we briefed in the 2x2, so I won't take too much of your time, but just wanted to provide just a brief update. First, the downtown transfer station. It did go to full council last night, and we are very excited to say that it did move forward for approval for it to eventually be transferred to EDA. So that is a monumental move. We have never made it that far with this project in the last 12 years. And I want to acknowledge a comment made by Mr. Donald. He said, we will no longer call it the Public Safety Building. It is now the GRTC Transfer Hub. And even in my mind, I kept thinking Public Safety Building, giant hole. It's exciting to now think about it as the Transfer Hub. So with that, we did kind of put in the request from the city was for CVTA Regional it was a $107 million request. We did come in and ask if that could be shifted to help us leverage funds for the build grant, which is also up here for you to do that. A resolution of support for the board, because that is due in about a week and a half. And that is for $25 million. So we requested for our CVTA regional if we could move forward about 13.5 million of that to be able to basically the only thing we would need would be that build grant to gap what we have so far in funding with that. We'll update that did not go well with TAC as far as recommended scenario. So we are still looking for hopefully some momentum towards that towards the end, but that was a request that was asked. So that is still a gap.
Why do we wait so late with that? Wait, because that was like I mean, we just really like heard about that in the last week. So even when you were telling us in the 221, it didn't even click that it was being added as a amended option to all the other options that CBTA. So the TAC recommendation will be heard tomorrow at committee, at finance committee. Then finance committee will vote on it. But I'm just curious as to why we waited, GRTC waited so late in the process to get that into the conversation.
Yeah. Well, GRTC is not the applicant we can't apply for regional projects. So it was the city's project. And I know the city's effort was to do the whole thing. So they really wanted to do the $107 million project. GRTC, of course, we need funds just for the transit podium. So, I mean, it was emphasized, we just need the transit podium. We just need the transit podium, understanding it is piece of the bigger project, but not being the applicant, we could only, I guess, voice so much knowing that they do want to keep the project together, which it stays as a requested bonding piece and kind of was the goal. And then the conversation, I guess, with the CVTA staff was, is there a way for this to kind of be the PE piece that's done in advance with the project? Yes, if that could have been done earlier, but again, I know there was other projects that also came into conversation that were kind of a priority from, I guess, the city's perspective that kind of moved forward as well. So I think in conversations, this one just stayed relevant to the region, but just stayed at the $107 million.
So if this doesn't move out of finance tomorrow for CVTA, then what's next?
And continues seeking funding. I mean, it just adds that much going after the bill to say this is basically fills the gap. Because we did have the build grant was originally for $1 billion, but the administration changed. This was like 2 weeks before the due date. We had already done our application and everything. They changed the name of it from raise to build, and they cut it back to, I think it was $10 million, which is significantly different. And with that, we still scored extremely well.
From $1 billion to 10 million?
They do. And so it became extremely competitive at that point.
All right, you can't just say that. So explain that to me.
Am I stating that wrong?
No, that's just significant. So like you gotta double click on that a little bit. So it went from a $1 billion project to 10 million. How is that?
Okay, wait, still a lot, sorry. 150? 10 billion to 150.
A lot.
Yeah.
10 billion to 150.
Yeah.
So that decision making input, how does that work? You gotta loop us in a little bit more.
That was just the Trump administration change.
So the program was funded with 10 million, then went to 150.
Sorry, it was $1 billion was the.
Now
It was now 150 because he put a freeze on
Right.
all of.
So the 150 million of that, what can be allocated to what?
It was a competitive federal, so nationally apply and.
We applied. We received.
We got an acknowledgement of merit, which basically invited us back for application saying next round, you're going to do really well.
We didn't
have enough money.
That's right. Understood.
Right.
Yep.
So knowing like that's good, that we feel like we have a really good chance this next time around. So having that and then just trying to be strategic, having enough funds to basically say this actually fills the gap for this project is a really strong applicant for the region. So that was why we in the end, like we came back and said we need this because we're going after the grant, this could be. So that was the big push towards the end. And then I know the city also had a change in staff. So go ahead and acknowledge Daniel. We met with him. We worked on a scenario to kind of bring that forward with the TAC and had several conversations with. So yes, timely. It wasn't great. But anyway, the project has moved forward. It is now going to be transferred to EDA. The RFQ, also very excited, about 2 weeks ago, that also closed. So as far as process wise, we got multiple bids. We're currently mobilizing the evaluation team, which would include city staff and GRTC staff. And we plan on making a selection by spring, at least for the summer, and be able to get the RFP. The goal is to get it out this summer so that we can have a full selection by the end of the year. So all that works, our project could be ready for moving forward, hopefully by next year.
So big picture, it's delayed at least a year probably because of the funding process.
We hope that
Forward with the design and keeping it moving, but we can't fund it for at least another year. Is that where you're at?
So it's a P3, which is new for this region as far as, I guess, the TOD. And typically, I think my understanding is with the P3, you usually have the design as part of the development.
Yeah.
So that was also kind of the region, hasn't done that before. So when we did apply for some grants, they said, oh, you have to have, like you just said, you have to have your design work. You don't want to have your design work because each developer might have a different idea of how that hub fits within. Is it this high? Is it this high? You're going to need.
We have enough to start that work with whoever's chosen through the RFP.
It all depends on how they propose it. They might include it within their design as far as because it's just.
We're procuring it as a P3 then, as a P3 project. Right. So that means the party that is selected will have the option to include it as a part of their design process, or they could actually go another route in which we have to do that on the front end. Is that correct? So they could include, they can basically, as a P3 partner, public-private partnership, all that good stuff, they would choose the level in which they engage. And so, or is that how we procured it? Because I think our procurement is what really determines.
Yeah. So we're not at that point yet. I mean, the RFP, we're planning on releasing it this summer.
Oh, so it hadn't even gone.
No, we've just done RFQ so far.
We did the RFQ.
Right.
RFP. All right.
Yeah, not RFP yet. So we still have to.
In the RFQ, have you gotten a qualified set of vendors yet, responses?
Yeah, we got multiple responses. Yeah.
And then from there, those will be the only pool of folks that qualify. And then based on I thought we were further along in the process. I didn't know.
It is two-step procurement just to see what
see what the market bears, all of that kind of stuff. And so now that you know what the market consists of, you'll do an RFP, and then that RFP will actually tell you at what level they will engage. Yeah, okay.
Correct, exactly. Great. I guess any other questions related to the transfer hub?
Well, based upon the energy of your sharing, and you smiling and seeming like you're feeling good, I would assume that this is a good step.
It is absolutely
saying,
yeah.
This is the furthest it's gone in a decade plus. So this is good news for GRTC.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. We really appreciate the support of the city.
This was before the council last night.
Mm-hmm.
We have a council meeting last night or a committee meeting. That's how you have so many meetings. And with the exception of one council member, the full board voted in support of this. And this development is farther along than a lot of the other development area, and I think really this is a catalyst for change for the central business district in the city of Richmond. And can to make sure that it's a great success, and appreciate the hard work that the staff has done successfully to get us to the place where we are. And the one council member that did not vote in support of it has lots of questions about community benefits and so forth, which I think Mr. Donald and, you know, and even in the pre-council meeting did a good job explaining the process as to when that will come into play. But I do think that some of the questions that my colleague was asking, we get some work that we need to do to make sure that we understand what can be considered for a community benefit agreement, and also the impact it has on even the qualified applicants that we've already pre-screened and that process of negotiation. So I don't want us to leave that, you know, unattended, because we don't want that to be a challenge in a way that is unnecessary just because we haven't provided the level of information that we need to. But thank you, Greater Richmond Transit, and looking forward to the EDA and us working very closely together on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would just add that that is a great point by the counselor, and that probably need to huddle with staff, because I think the questions, while they are well intended, it just shows that the communication level, we gotta increase it a little bit, because the ask of the counselor, she's referring to Counselor Gibson, are all well placed and well meaning, but they just, of course, already exist. And then if you do have federal money included, it limits some of the things that you can do. I think as practitioners, we all understand that, but we have to make sure that whether it is someone as advanced as a counselor or a layperson, that everybody understands it. So we probably need to huddle just to make sure that we're communicating it the right way.
All right, thank you.
Good point there.
Second thing.
Yes, just a very brief update on our quarterly ridership report. So for the fall, we had altogether about 3 million riders. So still doing very, very well. Trended as normal. We're October very, very high, and of course see a slight decline in November and December. Also want to highlight that we have routes 56 and route 80A, which were identified as kind of low performing based on their design of being peak service primarily for shift workers at factories in the area, were replaced with micro transit, so 56 and 88. And both the micro transit services are doing well. Last highlight is just some routes that we are going to be focusing on. Mentioned some of you guys in the 2x2s. Route 79, we'll continue to look at. Ridership has kind of declined, but also its design. We are looking at doing a Parham connector and working with Henrico County. So we see that as maybe an opportunity for maybe a connection of kind of the Henrico orbital, so connecting Henrico to Henrico. And then also Route 76, and that's one of the ones we did flag for reductions during the, as we have reduced service coming in February. That is low utilization in the West End. So that one we are looking at maybe for a micro transit as well. OTP, a couple of routes that we need to focus on, Express Route 95, Route 5, and then our 1C and our 3B. So we'll be using some of our new software to be able to see what's going on and see if we can. Any questions?
Questions? All right, thank you. Let's keep moving. Action items. Legal service, Joe Billett.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I won't be before you long. I think you all had conversations with Federal Agent and C-suite about the legal service contract up for renewal. And doing this legal service contract will support operations to include labor employment law, regulatory compliance, contract procurement matters, litigation, real estate, risk management, governance, public funding and grants, and transportation-specific legal issues. The recommendation is that the board of directors authorize the legal service contract. for a term of up to 5 years with a total expenditure not to exceed $425,000 to support GRT's ongoing legal and operational needs.
All right, questions? I hear no question.
Second.
And thank you. Thanks, Joe. Patricia Robinson. Service changes, February.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So I'm here to review the February service changes. These went to Development and Finance Committee in January, and then of course we postponed that board meeting. So we're bringing them again today. So these changes are primarily night and weekend and focused on low ridership trips in the evenings that we have experienced an operator workforce shortage. So we are missing people today. So we have a lot of same day cancellations because we're not able to have enough operators right now for our current level of service. So these reductions are necessary to give people reliable and dependable transportation. So by cutting specific nights and weekend service, we're able to mitigate the impacts. So we identified trips that were low utilization based on a trip level, stop level, looked at the max load capacity on either side of the trip to make sure it could accommodate additional riders both of the trips. So these impacts are really aimed at, getting our most bang for the buck here. How do we help the operator shortage as much as we can while reducing impacts to our riders? These impacts are temporary, with the exception of Route 1 going into VCC on the weekends. There's no classes, there's no ridership. That would not be reverted back. And the 88, as Adrian had mentioned, has been converted to micro transit, so that is a route elimination. Everything else on here is deemed a temporary change, that as soon as we have more operators come on board, that we would be adding trips and adding service back in. I know the marketing department and the training department to increase those efforts. I'd be happy to answer any questions that come along with the changes.
Yes,
So I think you've already started publicizing the changes. I know that you all contacted Chesterfield and asked that we push out messaging, and that was a concern brought up in development, making sure that there was good notice ahead of time to the riders.
Yes.
So you've taken steps to do that.
Good. Yes, thank you. We also had our public meeting last night at Main Street Library and had a pretty good attendance, which was nice to see. A lot of comments and feedback, some related to the changes, some just general feedback, which we're always happy to have as well and can get to our various departments. One of the primary concerns was that it's cold. We are leaving people out in the cold by missing trips. And so having a schedule that reflects what we're actually able to produce is important.
Are you notifying people on those actual routes? You've got a notice on the bus?
Yes, we have notices on the bus, on the website. I think they push it through the transit app as well. We hold the public meeting. There's a marketing outreach plan as well. So if I'm missing anything, marketing, please let me know.
We'll be at the DTS to notify them as well. So we'll have presence down there for several different times to make sure with the actual riders that's down there, to make sure they're aware.
We're doing that effort for 2 full weeks.
yes.
So we had one comment today, the 5 and the 14, but particularly the 5. And in that comment, it said that was a high volume route, but we've designated these as lower volume routes. So I just want to clarify is it a low volume route? And that person, because they ride the 5, believes that it's a high volume route? Or obviously it's going to be a hindrance for this person, but I'm just trying to clarify the discrepancy between the comment and our statement in here.
So I'm going to say yes to both and muddy the waters there. So yes, it is a high frequency route, and we do see a lot of ridership month over month looking at the route level. This change specifically is to reduce service after 9. So we see a substantial drop at that 9 o'clock mark. And that's what we were targeting with low trip utilization. So the 5 today does 15 till 7, 30 minutes after 7. And then we see a drop down at 9. So it'll be a stage and then it'll drop to 60 after 9 as part of these changes. So we're just kind of adding one more tier of a step down. So it is high ridership on the route level, on a monthly level. But after 9 on the weekdays, we do see a drop off that we're able to pair with reduced trips.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I've got a question. Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
I had one other thing. In development, you mentioned that you may look into the possibility of Uber, Lyft, kind of
That's what's
filling in the full to get places on that route, kind of like we did before, but a little bit more defined. How's that going?
Adrian, I didn't know if you wanted to speak to that.
We still plan on looking at providing that opportunity if the demand is there for that. We're also looking at how we can maybe utilize it as possible, maybe a link effort as well.
Did I see another hand? Yes.
Yes, it's difficult to deal with cutting back on services. Thank God we're not eliminating services. The frequency of where we're going and our vision for our transit system and where we want to increase the level of services throughout the region. My understanding for the reduction in service is primarily due to operators. And I think, what happens with a lot of our riders, they have no other choice of transportation in lots of cases. And so, for people that are working night shift, I don't ride the bus every day. You can say 5 and 12, and I don't know no more than 5 and 12, but I don't know where the bus is going. But if the service, I think, in addition to the ridership and the decision that is being made, I think the other issue that I'm concerned about is whether or not the services are being scaled back to industry that operates different hours, So after 9 o'clock, I used to ride the bus. When I rode the bus the most, I worked at the hospital. And so, I worked 11 to 7 shifts. So that time zone was critical to me to be able to get on the bus and get to the hospitals. And so I'm really concerned that for most of our riders that have no other choice and alternative ways, and whether or not strategically thinking whether or not we adequately planning for the level of staffing that is necessary so that we don't find ourselves in a position of having to cut back services for quite a length of time. I mean, it's not like, snow, weather, we can deal with that. Even if it's a short term, when you know that your staff is going to be back up to level in the scheduling of training and those kinds of things that are coming out. But this is a pretty lengthy time span for service, and not having any definitive knowing whether or not our customers that may really need that service, if it's me waiting to go to the hospital to work, it's a different kind of thing. And so I'm just not, I'm not getting comfort that we've done everything we can, first, and never for this not to ever happen again. Secondly, that we are compensating for this period of time of services in a way that best service that clientele, that in most cases have no other means of transportation. And so I'm not sure that I'm comfortable that the board is doing this deeper dive that we need to do to make sure that we are preventing these things from happening in the future, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And I got a question too. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to agree and kind of echo that. Now, I will say that I am extremely pleased with the level of communication that has followed the board deliberation on asking to make sure that all of our riders are aware of the change so that they can make adjustments as best as possible. But I think the concern, and I think at minimum to vote in favor of it, the piece that I know myself and the other Richmond leaders requested was that communication and, consideration in how we coordinate for our riders. But I do echo Council Member Robertson's comments that, so this is our core service. Delivering transit service is what all of these riders who are impacted are expecting. And so while drivers are challenged and we have to make a decision on that, I think it is important that, we crystallize that this is a challenge that we should not be faced with. And so if we're going to have, if we're not going to have drivers, if that's a challenge right now, we do have to, as the council member mentioned, we could not be faced with that again, because again, it's a core service. So the one thing people expect is for us, when they show up at a bus stop or when they're dependent on transportation, that they're able to receive it and access that transportation. It would be the same as me operating a recreation center and not be able to coordinate youth basketball because I don't have enough coaches. We have to provide that. So the hope is that this interim solution moves forward to us being able to forevermore deliver this core service. Otherwise we have just larger challenges. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? So what are we actually voting on? The action item is what?
The action item is acknowledgement of the consent agenda as far as Title VI impacts are concerned. So the FTA regulation for Title VI impacts is that if they're considered temporary, meaning service is put back within a year, it's not necessary to do a full analysis. We do have the 88 reduction, and that is considered a major change. So we wanted to make sure that was brought as far as the Title VI, even though we're switching out modes for a wider span of time and more service, we still wanted to bring that. And then we went ahead and did the Title VI analysis on all of these changes as well, just so we can understand the full impacts and make sure we're monitoring the system well. And there were no negative impacts to minority and low-income populations. Based on these, we really tried hard to make it an equitable change. It is across the system. It's not, designated to one part of the city or focused on one route in particular for these adjustments. So that's what the action item is for today.
So it's semantics, but perhaps, but 88, is that being called a temporary or permanent change?
That one's considered a permanent because that's a switch from that limited service to microtransit.
So the action item is on page 29. Okay, so all that you just said was on page 29.
Yes, sir.
It looks different than what you just said, but
these are also acknowledgements of the changes and their temporary status, with the exception of the 88 here. And then the impact is the bottom bullet points, that there is no disparate impact or disproportionate burden.
All this is being caused because we're down 11 drivers right now. Where are we at in classes? What do we have for people that are going through the process to be able to drive?
Well, we're more, so I think that's the part of my, it's not a question, but it's more like a comment, but it is a question. It's bigger than 11 drivers. Like we are, which is what I am, I won't choose my words, like, I don't want to say confused, but the narrative that I have been sharing is incorrect based upon where we are right now. So I have been excitedly telling people when we came on the board, we were down almost 100 drivers based compared to where we are now. We were like in the 220s during COVID.
250.
We had, you know, I mean, unless I'm missing something, I thought we were like well over 300 operators.
314 now.
Yeah. So I really am still not understanding.
We added services as we added drivers, and now that we've added services because we've added drivers and we're down a little bit from where we were at our highest point of drivers, we're having to have discussions again about service because we've added more service from when we couldn't hire drivers back
So
a couple of years ago.
let me hear a staff person say, is that right? Is that's Jim? I hear my vice chair saying that, but is that where we are now because we've added service back and we don't have enough drivers to accommodate the added service?
Correct. That ratio of added service to driver availability has just kind of been thrown off. And if I can highlight the severity of getting out appropriately, appropriately staffed schedules. This time last year, we were missing about 30 trips a month, so 2 a day. We're up about 30 trips a day that we are cutting. So those are times that people are waiting for a bus that it's not coming.
And so comparatively last year versus where we are this year, the staffing dynamics are what? So we're off how many drivers now? I want them to tell me.
The ratio of service to drivers, but getting back to that original level would be the goal.
You want to explain?
Yes.
Yeah, come on. Because we got to vote on it, so I just want to be comfortable before I vote. Yeah.
So the staffing, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So the staffing issue, it's twofold. So we did increase service, but we're also seeing an increase in our absenteeism. So that's the other half of the equation that causes a deficit in the number of operators that are available on a daily basis. So it's something that we're closely monitoring now with the absenteeism, but we can't control some of those deficits when it comes to FMLA and the usage of sick leave or vacation time as mandated in our contract. So we're currently looking at the data and the trends of our leave and also of our overtime, whether or not that 325 number is actually the right number for us to use. So that's something we're currently looking at.
So are we having conversations then with operators, the union, whatever be the case? Like, what is the increase in FMLA, sick leave, vacation? We haven't had these problems at this level before. So is there some type of rationale or reasoning? Like, how is it? So do we not have any control over managing vacations and FMLA and, with schedules and all of that? So
You can't control FMLA.
So then what do we do? So we just going to hire 20, 30 more riders, operators, so we'll be up to 355, 360. And how does that impact the budget?
So that's what we're looking at now with our leave and overtime, our budget with that, because right now we're covering all these extra trips with overtime. And so when John gives us a report about we're over where we are with our overtime expense, that's why. So we're looking to see whether or not hiring more above the 325 will be actual savings in the long run from the overtime. because we'll be hiring junior operators at the lower rate that they come.
So have we've been seeing this. I think the first time I really heard this was like last month. Like, have you been telling us that this has been a problem? You've been telling us when you get up and make this report, you've been saying, hey, this is a problem.
So, yeah.
Okay. You guys been hearing it? Like I must be zoned out during the meetings because the first I heard of this was like last
I don't
month.
think that, we might have heard it, but I'm not sure that we, digested it correctly.
That's correct. We
Okay.
didn't say that it was a problem. We were showing the numbers and the fact that they were decreasing. Because our top number that we've had has been 326 operators.
Yeah.
Which
That's
was
what
our
I've been-
goal. That
yeah,
was
that's
our
what I've
goal.
been hearing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then gradually each month, we have been losing operators.
Yeah, but it's a problem. I mean, this is, you know, and maybe this is what Councilwoman Robertson and Mr. Donald was saying that, like, hopefully we won't get here anymore. Like it's like we're forced to make some really drastic decisions that are impacting the lives of people, but it's inched up on us versus this didn't happen all overnight.
It didn't.
Like,
No, it didn't. You're correct. It did not happen overnight. And part of it is we stopped classes for a couple of months. So that's a lesson learned where we will continue to have classes. We had a class start on where the original was.
We've had monthly class.
We had 9 operators start the class. We have another class starting on the 23rd of this month. And then moving forward, we will have classes. Class size, we've also increased. We used to limit it to 10, so now we're doing 12. And if necessary, we'll do 2 a month. But no, that's the lesson learned, is to not stop hiring and training.
okay. Were you gonna say something else?
Yeah, I just think that there are, I mean, hindsight is always so great sometimes. But, I remember, one of the things that we pushed from the very beginning, and Dan, spoke really highly about classes and how many classes we were having, how many people coming out of class, graduation and so forth. But learned a lot in this process, not having classes a couple of months, the status of some folk not having a schedule, and so I think there's some HR policy management kinds of challenges that we are seeing that may be contributing to some of these kinds of unfortunate situations that we're in. It's not a budget issue, so obviously the money is there, and it's problematic when you have budget and can't deliver the services that the budget allows to be given. And so I really don't think that this is something that we should not look at very carefully to really appreciate the changes that are going to be made from the lessons that have been learned in the process. But how we implement those lessons learned early in the process, that we see this coming in a way that we prevent it. If we're not strategically thinking through our management decisions or operation decisions, whatever, training, in a way to prevent. I mean, our top priority has to be to deliver the core service. I mean, that's why we exist. And adding on additional services in the process of coming to a place like this may not have a direct relationship, but it's difficult to think that it doesn't.
I appreciate all of that. And I also appreciate what Mr. Donald said about core service. Our core service is doing what we're talking about changing. And I think the biggest concern I have over anything is what sounds to be very thin margins for healthy operation and on-time delivery of our product versus not. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for error if there's people that aren't calling in or that aren't coming in. And I don't have an answer for it, but I think we need to talk a little bit more about what a healthy margin is so that we're not looking at this, because this seems to be a potential for repeating if those thin margins are there.
It sounds like when we got to the number that we thought we needed, we stopped doing classes, but attrition continued to happen while we were not running classes and we got behind. And it sounds like that lesson's been learned and that we're gonna get, if we need to have in the budget that you can have training classes to go above and beyond the FTEs for drivers, then maybe that's something we need to address so that you can continue to run those classes if we are at full capacity.
So we have budgeted 325, but we also have a budget for 10 trainees.
10 trainees.
to
So,
be in, so yes.
so
yes.
we just need to know attrition's gonna happen each month and continue to run those classes regardless.
I still feel like we need to figure out what is going on though. Because if we have 10% vacancy, I mean, 10, whatever, like the number just sounds crazy, the amount of people that are out. Like there is a story behind that. Let's not just act like it's just everybody getting sick, vacation, that something is going deeper into all of those outs at the same time. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In my call with them, I recommended that they develop a strategy because even when I was on the school board, we faced that where it was a lot of FMLA and you couldn't, cover classes and things, but creating some sort of strategy around that because you can't actually attack the FMLA. So what is the strategy around that so that you are pre-planning and being proactive as opposed to reactive? Because most of it is really I'm sick, or some of it has to do with culture, right, in the organization. And so I think really looking at internal controls to see what's happening and looking at the FMLA, is it the same? Is it recurring? And really developing a strategy on how to maybe try to work around that. So I shared some of that with them as well, just having that same experience on the school board, and it is very challenging. And so I do know that, yes, it is something deeper, but then at the same time, it is something that is just happening at that moment. And so it is always best to get ahead of it.
I think I was looking ahead. It may be helpful for Mr. Hernandez to quickly go through, I think, some of the slides that he put together. I saw some of the statistics, and I think that's all strategy slide in there as well.
But this is can we do that?
We can do that.
We can hear from him now before we go to the vote. I guess we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead, run through them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wasn't ready to go through the slide deck, but we'll.
I was on that, Mr. Chair, if I may. Perspective here that I'm watching, Councilwoman Robinson's exactly right. There's a short-term and a long-term issue. You brought up the long-term issues, right? The impact on the budget. What is the right number? What is going on here? Deeper dive, but Councilwoman Robinson's exactly right. In the shorter term, I don't want to see cuts since nobody does. Right sizing what we can do is important. So in the short term, I would say my perspective is the reason I'm here to support the temporary cuts right now is because I'd rather do that in the short term, fix the problem, than leave folks standing there waiting in the cold. And these are folks that I just on a personal level, these are folks that I know that are going to work. I get it. So in the short term, that's why I would be supportive of what we're doing here today. A different perspective is the long-term things that you brought up. 325 to where we are now, and I want to say is it 314? That's 12 operators. So it's 3.7% of the pool. That is not the silver bullet. It's not. It's 12 people. The July, August to September hiatus from class that our CEO mentioned, we didn't do a class in July, August, September. During July, August, September, 14 operators left. That is it. That's it. That is what happened. I do this all. I have 2,200 employees in my other job. This is what I did. We didn't teach for July, August, September. That's an easy fix. Those 3 months, 14 people left and we're 12 short. I'm sorry. It just boils down to sometimes that simple. Don't do that again. And that will fix that piece. It is, again, not a silver bullet. We have 54 people on average every day that are out on sick leave or FMLA, which the CEO is correct. We can't control that. The policy is the policy. It's in the collective bargaining agreement. Long-term strategy. In the winter, that average went up to like 55 on average, 40 that were out on sick leave in the winter. 5 people out of 325 is 17% of your driver pool. That's a problem. That is a problem. You can mitigate some of that with the July, August, September classes and not having the 14 attrition by doing our average classes are coming out to the same. And if we do it regular, it's 4 or 5 people coming through it. We had 0 for 3 months. We had 14 people leave in those 3 months. That's the long-term picture. The short-term picture is correct. I don't want to vote for cuts that impact people's lives. Nobody does, but we have to, because the opposite right now in the short term is really detrimental to us. In the long term, though, however, we get right back on the horse that we know how to fix. We really have to be careful about your long-term impact to the budget, because hiring 355 and just shotgunning the system is going to make John come to us and say, I have a problem. So just know that there are 2 perspectives, in my opinion, looking at this. There's the short-term fix that we have to do, and there's a long-term fix to get back on the horse, understanding numbers, being 12 short, missing 3 months of 14 people with the attrition in those months is the thing. And then the last thing I'll say, Mr. Chair, before you move on to whatever presentation that you'd like to see is we spoke about this in the collective bargaining agreement the first time. The increased percentage of part-time operators is a silver bullet. The more that we can advocate for our CEO to get the ability to have more part-time operators to fill these gaps, that's how you do it. When I have full-time gaps in my 450 positions, I fill them with part-time staff who want those hours, who are trained, who are diligent, and who can do it. And it offers the flexibility for your scheduling folks and for the organization, and quite frankly, the drivers, to allow them the ability to have FMLA leave and sick leave with the ability to have part-time. And I don't know the numbers like you do, ma'am, but the part-time percentage is low to me. And I think you need more. And I think that's an argument that we should be able to take to the union and say, look, in the long term, it helps you and your operators to be able to have the leave that they want, that we want to offer them. But we can't do that if we don't have the part-time operators to fill those gaps, because then we're going to be looking at service cuts. So short term, that's why I'm voting yes today for the cuts, temporary cuts. Long term, to be careful about expansion and how it affects our budget, and just getting back, in my opinion, to a stable core delivery service where this organization can take a breath and stabilize for a little bit with regard to operators. So sorry to be long-winded about it, sir.
No,
But
that's
the
fine.
2 perspectives that I see.
Let's hear from Kevin. And I think my only caveat with what Dan said is Patricia's this is temporary. And so I think how to get back out of temporary to a stabilized place is what concerns me, which is pretty much what you just shared. So can you give us, are you ready now?
Yeah. I'm not the user a little bit. I appreciate that. You gave a good synopsis of the data that's in front of us. So I'm gonna go through this on a high level. So starting with this chart here. So this is what was referenced back in June of 2025. We were at our goal. We had 326 operators. As of January, we were down to 314. So digging deeper into this, the next slide. So this is our attrition, our turnover. So for that same period of time between June and January, we had 29 total operators leave the workforce. And between June and September, that's when we had our highest. We had 19. So that was over half of that 29 number happened between June and September. So looking on the flip side, our graduates for that same period of time. This is where Dan was highlighting that between July and September, we had 0 graduates from our class. And that's when we took that pause. As our CEO mentioned, that's a lesson learned for us. But since October, we've restarted our recruitment strategy and our efforts. And so January, we had 5 graduates, and we actually had 5 graduate this past week. And so we're continuing that monthly cycle of up to 10 to 12 students graduating every month to get us back to our stable numbers. So all that to say with the next slide here, what is the story? So we had 29 total separations. We had 13 new operators joining that same period. So we had a deficit of 16 for that period there. So our operator count is 313. This is a correction on your slide deck there, but this is 313 is actually our count. It's only 12 short, right? So what else is happening? It seems like that's not a big number, but to put it in context, in a 24/7 operation, being short 10 to 12 operators, that is a huge strain on our resources. And I'll explain in a second how.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Operators separating from the agency.
Yes.
What does that look like?
So of those 19 that I mentioned during that summer period, the 19 out of that 29, those were 13 of those were from involuntary reasons, so terminations for performance, whether that was for accidents, attendance, drug and alcohol, all that's encapsulated in that number. So from the voluntary side, we had a mixture, retirements, promotions, and the voluntary ones that we did see were from our junior operators, who when they come out of training, the demand of the first year schedule is just not a right fit for them. When you come out of training, you're in the extra board, which is the substitute board, your schedule varies day by day. You don't have a set schedule, and that demand is just not right for everybody.
Was that normal? I mean, comparative years. 13 out of 19 during the summer, involuntary. 24, 23, 22, 21. Similar? Are we doing those comparisons?
You had a similar trend the years prior to that. The only difference was that we were able to continue hiring. So we never really dove into that issue of the revolving door because we just kept up. So now once we stopped, it became profound because it happened and we didn't go behind it and hire.
I'm sorry. So
yes, sir.
There, I think you said 13 involuntary separations for performance.
In that time period, yes, between June and
4% involuntary turnover, pretty standard. And remember, involuntary turnover for performance is a healthy organizational movement. So that, to me, it sounds that's a healthy movement for the organization. To 4% is pretty. Actually, it's not bad. Industry wise.
Thank you. So the next slide here will dive into our absenteeism that I was talking about. So this first slide here looks at if we had our target number of 325. So this green chart shows the total 325. We have 286 operators on permanent schedules, meaning that it's a fixed schedule. They know what they work, their days off and everything. And we would have 39 operators on our extra board, which are the substitutes. On average, we have about 54 people on leave, and this average is looking at 2025's average. So that's about 15 shifts that roughly, one more section. We have about 15 shifts that are uncovered on a daily basis. That's manageable with our built-in overtime and our resources that we have at hand. Once we look at the actual number, the next slide here. So when you have 313 operators, your extra board dwindles down to 27. And during the winter months, our sick leave average went up to 40. So we had 60 operators out on average. So when you look at that, that doubles the amount of daily shifts that we have to cover. And that creates a strain on our ability to really cover all these trips. So what's happening is that ad hoc, we have to cancel trips and service. And we can't really plan for it based on what we have on a day-to-day basis. So these service adjustments that are temporary better target, and we can pre-plan and inform riders where they'll see those impacts rather than people waiting at the bus stops and the bus doesn't show up. And that's something that we don't take lightly. To me, being in operations, it's something that it's not something that I want to have happen. But unfortunately, within operations, when you have to balance out your resources, you have to make this difficult decision. And so these next slides are just the impact of service delivery. I'm not going to go through these line by line, but essentially we had a reduction in the number of trips that we were able to successfully deliver. So for instance, in December, we only delivered 96% of our scheduled trips. So we had 53,000 scheduled trips, we only delivered 51. And so that just shows that impact. It's also compounded by holidays. When holidays come around, that's another staffing deficit with Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that. Yes. And so we also saw complaints go up as well during that same time period. We're averaging 52 complaints in that same period. And most of those, a third of those were related to schedules, whether the bus didn't show up or we weren't adhering to the posted schedules. Oh yeah, sorry. One more. Yeah, that was the complaints. And the last slide is just the recovery strategy that we spoke about. We anticipate by springtime, barring any spikes in attrition, we'll be back to that target number. And we're going to continue stabilizing that number with having a pipeline that's consistent of trainees to ensure we don't backtrack. But we're going to continue looking at the data, making sure that that headcount of 325 is the right number as well, given everything that we've been talking about with FMLA and the deficit we're facing.
All right, you done? All right, thanks. Any questions for Kevin before we go back to action item? All right, thank you. Any other questions for Patricia? If not, we need a motion to accept February service changes.
Thanks. So moved.
All right, moved in second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, let's jump down to Tony Carter, Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My understanding that some of you have already gone over this presentation on previous conversations with the executive team. So basically what I'll do is give a brief overview. Public Transit Agency Safety Plan, PTAS. As a safety officer, it's my job to monitor safety goals and set goals to gauge how risk mitigation factors are being in place to keep everyone as safe as possible. As we've been talking about hiring new classes, training classes, increasing services, decreasing services, what we do as a whole is take the industry standards that we look at from different goals across the agencies, across the country, and we compare our standards to what they put in place. We also look at the accidents, different complaints, things of that nature throughout the year to present a picture of how our safety mediations are being put in place and how they're working so far as gauging what we're doing out there on the street. Some of the risk mitigations that we put in place are things like monitoring operations, safety blitzes, customer complaints, reviewing complaints, and seeing how those actual things are working. Some of the goals that we set this year, we did meet. Some of the goals we exceeded. Some of the goals we didn't meet. Not meeting a goal is not that bad of a thing. If I set goals so low that we meet all of them, we're not getting a true picture of what we're actually doing when it comes to the evaluation process. So the recommendation from the staff is to increase some of the goals that we set in place, keep some of the goals in place, and decrease some of the goals. And basically that's based off of industry standards that we're seeing, as well as increasing services and the overall new operator turnover that we have. We've got to take that into consideration. So I ask that you properly vote to pass those goals that have been set. If there are any questions, I'll take those now. If not, I'll take a seat.
Questions? Mr. Carter. All right, hearing none, is there a motion? Moved.
Second.
All right, moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir. Financial report, Mr. Zanzarella.
I would say most of the people had it in their 2x2, so unless there are questions, I wasn't gonna have
Okay.
to go through that.
All right. I don't have a board chair report. I do want to, and I hate to do this, Cheryl, do you want to, we did have some legislation that was, did we talk about this? No, we didn't. We had some legislation that was on the table that ended up getting,
Right.
killed at some point.
Right.
Can we just get like a 30-second Yeah, Joe, you mind?
Yes, it was a House Bill 571 was introduced by Delegate Scott Wyatt. It essentially changed the formula of the CBTA allocation of GRTC. Typically, it's of that code, 15% of the money. It was going to reduce it from 15% and to 13%, and 2% go directly to A Transit, which when you do that number is about $4.6 million. I think Adrian pointed it out. That's their entire operating budget. The county of New Kent, North Charles City administrative body didn't support that legislation. So as time went on and certain players got involved, including elected officials through Tyrone and other members of the CBTA, that bill was pulled by Scott Wyatt. There are other bills in place right now or in play that could benefit Bay Age and Transit or the region with more money, but that bill was strucken or removed by the patron himself. So I think it was just miscommunication. The person or people who asked them to carry that legislation didn't go through the proper channels of the county administration to get support for it, but that bill did die now. So we shouldn't have that issue.
Thank you. So that was a 30-second update of a multi-day story that involved a whole bunch of different people. Like that bill just kind of came out of nowhere and freaked everybody out. But thankful for the diligent work, particularly of Joe and Cheryl and Adrian, the team here, doing everything they could to talk to the delegation and all the things that go with being an advocate.
The way that resolved, but was it more on procedural grounds, or do we anticipate them bringing something forward in future years?
I don't know. We didn't anticipate this, so it just kind of, the bill was just put in. If you talk to New Kent and Charles City, their administration, they will both tell you they didn't know anything about it. It went in one day. The next morning, I heard about it. Then I think we had a CBTA meeting like the same day, and so me and the board of supervisor member from New Kent, like having a public going back and forward at a CBTA meeting about the bill, and it moved quickly for the feet once people started getting involved and having conversations. So again, thank you. All right, any executive session? We don't need it. Do you have a report?
We were going to, but we were told we couldn't speak about the things we've been looking at from a review standpoint. So it would be helpful to do what we couldn't do in January.
I'm confused. What do you mean?
Well, we were going to report back to the discussion about CEO review for 2025.
And we were told, who told us that? Who told us that we
in January?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we need to go into executive session now, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That would be the hope.
Yeah, all right. I move that GRTC's Board of Directors hold a closing meeting pursuant to Section 2.2-3711, A1 of the Code of Virginia for discussion and consideration of the performance of Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Richmond Transit Company.
Second.
All right. All in favor? All right. None in favor. Nobody disagrees. Clear the room if you don't mind, guys. Thank you. Just want to ask our attorney to hang in with us.
So, man, I made a couple of
We good, Dexter? All right.
He needed Jesus at that moment. He was calling for him.
Whereas the Board of Directors of GRTC has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved. The board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements under Virginia law was discussed in the closed meeting to which this certifying resolution applies, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting, were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Witness the following vote of the board members: Tamara Nelson, aye. Jim Engel.
Aye.
Barbara Smith.
Aye.
Dave Anderson.
Aye.
Dan Smith. Aye. Terrell Hughes. Odie Donald.
Aye.
Evan Robertson. Nicole Jones.
Aye.
All right. That's it, right? Any other business?
I don't want to belabor the,
Oh, my God.
I do have one other thing though.
Oh,
Seriously, I saw a DRPT report that said that, that some of the guidelines for federal funding for, transit would be based on, you cannot have a fare free system. And I just want to make sure that you all are watching that and paying attention to that.
What's that? So Department of Transportation, an amendment that any agency that is fare-free, it will impact our funding. So we reached out to all of our senators, Warner, Kane, and opposed the bill. Yes, remaining zero fare, any operation that's zero fare, it will impact our eligibility for federal funding.
It could if that passes.
I will. Nope, I absolutely will.
Not zero fare. A little donation box out there.
I mean, that is accurate.
If you want.
I don't want to belabor the end of the meeting. I just wanted to make sure that we're aware of it and that we're watching it. That's it. That's all. It was a point of information.
I would ask that you just send something to the board about that, because that's important. That's vital.
Yes, absolutely.
Be aware of that.
Yes, and we've been in conversations with our senators regarding this, so yes.
Thank you. Any other business? All right, so before I adjourn, hopefully Mr. Zenzarella is ready. Like, I'm not the chair of that meeting, but like those of us on the committee, can we just like take a 2-minute break and then come back to and keep rolling? All right, meeting adjourned.
Yes.
Yeah, I really didn't want to belabor that.
No, I was gonna
I
bring
thought it was